Of all the players who joined within the first day, few left as big of an impact on 9BNT's map and culture as AtomicSquid110. He joined within the first day. I'm not sure about the exact time since he's one of the few unfortunate players who had their player data reset in 2017. AtomicSquid was a builder before anything else, and left behind many interesting creations, most of whom, unfortunately, are already griefed. Throughout his entire period of activity, from 2016 all the way to 2019, he was perhaps the most well-liked player of all time. Always friendly to everyone, and always beloved by all the communities he interacted with, it was hard to get mad at him, even when he was in the wrong. This video will go over his story.
AtomicSquid110, usually referred to as just Atomic, joined on day 1. While it isn't known exactly what he did in his very first days, he probably spent them grinding and stacking up, playing normal survival Minecraft and gathering materials for his future projects, in a time where dupes still had not happened. Even when a dupe ended up going public, around the beginning of July, Atomic did not make widespread use of it, even assuming he duplicated any items at all. In the middle of the month, he started posting regularly on the 9B90s subreddit, building up what was the beginning of his fame. It must seem unreal from a new player's perspective, but the subreddit back then was even smaller. The active reoccurring posters on the subreddit were probably just around 10 at best. Aside from his jokes, it was the builds he occasionally posted that attracted everyone's attention. His first famous build is the place called Atomic's Farm. Situated around 20,000 blocks from spawn, it is perhaps better known by its nickname 9B90's own Valley of Wheat, although for obvious reasons many prefer not to use that name. It's a massive wheat farm, with a few gorgeous buildings included, built pretty much entirely without the aid of dupes. It was meant as a first stop for all players that managed to escape spawn. It survived pretty much ungriefed until New Year's Eve, when it was intensively griefed for the first time by Link, another Day 1 player mostly known as a member of Legion, by then already disbanded. It was frequently repaired and re-griefed since, sometimes with people adding their own custom builds. The farm was completed probably sometime around mid-August, as he left it on the 20th of that month. It is unknown how long he worked on it, but he probably already was farming as early as July 22nd, the date of his Reddit post, in which he showed what he was doing with all the excess wheat he had. He left the farm after being invited to a small group base called Nirvana, probably the very first for him. The leader of it was a player called Yokoya. In the following weeks, the base grew in numbers, reaching its final form sometime in late August. At its peak, other than Yokoya and Atomic, the base members were Brad Armstrong, FrazT0, and MM114. Nirvana was eventually griefed by Brad Armstrong after a disagreement with the others. Atomic and Fraz were invited to NVHQ4 immediately after by Minecart 11. Atomic, however, stayed behind. He intended to fix and complete his builds before leaving Nirvana. Atomic did not have a lot of time. However, NVHQ4 was griefed by Maybe Your Mum just a few days after his arrival in early September. Together with Fraz and a few others from NVHQ4, they moved to join a base owned by players Actually Tom and FBJ called Devotion. At Devotion, Atomic built the prototype of his famous glass dildo, which was however griefed before completion. Devotion met its end not long after due to flashback, but not before the base spawned the Discord that would become public. Atomic was the first player to send a message in the Discord. After Devotion was griefed, however, Atomic decided to break off from the rest of the group. He wanted to work on his own on his Bob Dylan map art. Before he even completed it, however, he received an invitation to K2, a base with a semi-legendary status owned by Scioto Screen and Swagness. It was renowned as a place full of great builds, and the screenshots, which were at the time posted without worrying about anyone trying to terrain exploit it, had the whole server impressed. It must be noted, while the base might not be that impressive by today's standards, almost all of it was built before the dupe, and the group takes pride in the fact that they were almost all original builds. This was when AtomicSquid's status as a legend was cemented. Just like all the other K2 members, his status as big player was cemented and accepted by pretty much everyone on the server. There he built, among other things, new and improved versions of his glass dildo. This second one was in fact finished. When K2 was leaked by VoiceArdian on December 4th, Atomic proceeded to grief it together with the other members, moving on to create a new base, the project whose name, NBT, would only be revealed months later. The place was simply known by the community as K3, which to this day is an informal nickname for the new base by that same group. NBT was a similar experience, but this time there was no lack of materials. The group, rich from the very beginning, made use of the dupe being re-enabled for Christmas 2016. Their new project ended up being quite big as well, but NBT is generally the least appreciated of their three major bases, mostly due to it being built on flatlands. Regardless of how it may appear to the modern eyes, NBT was the most renowned base of its time, competing with other big names such as Auschwitz, Aftermath, and Nemesis 3. NBT was mostly notable for being the first non-Legion base known to host illegal items and player-made end portals. This information was leaked by its own members in early 2017, but most people ended up dismissing it as a hoax. After all, the members of NBT were always fond of that kind of thing. Unrelated to the base, but relevant to Atomic himself, sometime between early and mid-2017, he copied username and profile picture of a fellow player miniman392 as a meme, but ended up keeping it to this day. This led to the two of them often being mistaken for each other by newer players. NBT was griefed by Remastered COD and several others on the eve of 9b90's first anniversary, but most of its members weren't even there anymore. Days before, several of them, Atomic included, had already moved on to start a new project, the place that would become known as Cat Island. Speaking of Auschwitz, Atomic was there in its final days. Fibular gave coordinates to him and Swagnus, and they headed there. The two of them made small improvements to the base and had fun with the members, but less than a week later the place was griefed by Matt Planet and Jock. After that brief moment, 9b90 entered its lowest player count. Atomic would continue working on Cat Island intermittently in the following year. He also is the one who wrote the poem that you can find on the 9b90 wiki at Cat Island's page. In 2018, the base was briefly resurrected by the contest with WTD Puddle's invitation and later Urpanatori's. Atomic is speculated to have played a major role in the hoax about this base being griefed. It is believed by many that he is the one who took the screenshot of the base filled with TNT and posted it to the subreddit, signing himself Winnie the Pooh 2004. Later that year, the Cat Island players and a few others, Corrupted Greed, JJ Stars 261, Lot of the Builder, Tentanes, Lambadger, and Fraz, began working on a side project called Fort Breendonk, placed at meme coordinates in an ice biome. There, Atomic started working on an ice castle, which however never saw completion due to Supreme 2 finding and griefing the base. That was the last known major activity by AtomicSquid on the server. He would continue being active in the community all the way up until Cat Island's grief in late 2019. He stayed on 9b90 for a few more months after that before quitting officially on the 19th of February 2020.
And that was the tale of AtomicSquid110. We're on quite a tight schedule for today, so I hope you enjoyed it because there are two more coming later.